If you've ever gone live on Instagram, you know it's not always easy, and maybe that's the reason why you've never done it. I know it sounds super scary, but you can sell a lot of products or services or whatever to new and existing customers through Instagram Lives. And not only that, lives popping up are also a really great reminder to people that you and your products actually exist. So, in today's podcast episode, I am rewarding you for being a nice listener of the podcast by giving you a sneak peek of my launch game book, which is my new launching course, all about how you can sell through lives. And because I know it's not always easy to, do new stuff or open yourself up to it, I'm really going to give you the step-by-step approach even of how to announce your live, what to pay attention to, and how to follow up with people who are listening to your live. Have fun listening. Hello, and welcome to the Fast Forward Amy show, the show where we lift your life and business with simple strategies. I'm Fast Forward Amy, your host and coach, and I'll bring you a new episode every Tuesday. It's really scary to start selling through lives because what if no one shows up? And do you absolutely need to do it? And if you're doing it, what do you need to pay attention to? Before I dive into the do's and don'ts of selling through lives, and by that I mean, for example, Instagram lives or group sales calls, I'm gonna take you with me in what I did last year. Last year in March, I had a launch that was still a good launch, but for what I was used to, the launch was a little bit less. And I never like to externalize things, so I don't like to blame other people or circumstances for why things didn't work. And although the fact that the launch still did okay, and the fact that there were some things I could blame, I had still decided to take a look together with my content strategist Amber at what did we do differently this launch compared to other launches. And what I saw there is something I should have known, something you need to know as well, by the way, is because I saw that I hadn't been going live as much as I did in previous launches, or as I had in previous launches. So what happened during I think it was my fourth BFE launch, which was the fourth time I was launching the same program, is I was kind of continuing to talk after my previous launch. So what happened is I had launched in September, and then I had launched again in February, March. And because I was so deep into it, I kind of felt like, hey, but I've gone live a bunch. I have talked about the features of this program a bunch. So I don't necessarily need to be going live right now. I didn't want to go balls to the wall. But what happened after the launch is when I had a look at what was the biggest differentiator between the previous launch and that launch is the fact that I interacted and engaged with my audience a lot less. And straight up engagement with your audience is really important because this is what you need, especially in the last phases of your launch. What we call the permit phase and the peak phase is where people have a lot of questions, and those things might be objections, but they might be just frequently asked questions that you need to be answering. And I laugh a lot about this, but one of the questions that I always get is, at what time do the coaching calls take place? And for you, it might be, in what colors is this skirt available? Or it might be, is it online or offline? Or in which language is your course? Or what if I'm not ready for this yet? There are certain questions your audience has, and you need to get them to the point that they actually ask you the questions, be that objections or frequently asked questions. You need them to speak up because objections are severe buying signals, and frequently asked questions kind of mean that people are almost ready to buy. They are very, very ready to start handing over their wallet to you. So this is why lives are really important. If you're currently launching or selling, or you look back at your previous year and you're like, I did okay, but I feel like the results weren't as big as I wanted to, it might be because you are missing a few very simple elements, and selling through lives might be one of those. Because what we tend to forget as millennials, or whatever you are, is that when we look at social media, it's social media. And if you would be in a village and you would have your own store, physical, maybe you do have a physical store, or maybe an online store, or maybe a coaching company or a consultant, it doesn't matter what you do, but whatever you do, you Probably if you would have a store, you would be talking to people. You would open your door to the people passing by. You would showcase some things in your store window. And when there is a local market, maybe you would partake in it. Or if there's a conference about your sector, you would go there and you would talk to people. But when we are all at home, working from home, behind our computers and our phones, we kind of forget when we are strategizing for our content online and when we want to be selling online that we actually need to be putting the social in social media. And that is what you can achieve when you sell through live. So my mistake was I didn't go live enough and my messaging was built on my previous launch, but you should always start over because the newest people are often your hottest leads because the people who haven't bought in a long time take a lot of convincing. But when you talk to new people, they might be very inclined to buy easily. So right now, if you're thinking, but Amy, I already do so much. Do I really need to go live to sell? It's so scary. I'm going to let you in on a little secret, namely that I tend to convert almost everyone, over 80% of the people who comment on my lives when they have questions about a launch. So what I do is I will go live and I will, for example, ask, hey, if you're watching live, let me know by commenting a coffee cup. You can choose your own favorite emoji, like a little heart or like a lightning bolt. I don't know. I always choose the coffee cup. And by now my audience knows when I'm going live and they want to let me know that I'm going live, they will comment a coffee cup. I'm fairly certain, I'm currently going live on Instagram as I'm recording this, that someone will have commented a coffee cup to say like, hey, Amy, I'm here right now. I'm listening and I'm watching. My clients know that they need to do this. So what I do is I implement these little tricks to get people to the point that they actually engage with me. Because if they say one thing, like an emoji, which is very, low barrier, then it's going to be easier for them to also reply with a sentence to something I say. And then the next step could be that they actually ask me a question. And when they ask me a question, I will write down their names because those are then my leads. And then later I can just send them a voice note or a message like, hey, I saw you were in the live, you had that question. Which other questions do you have? So the main goal of me going live is not to be selling during the live, it's to engage with people so that afterwards I can help them become a paying customer. I think the first step probably to going live is that you're probably afraid, what if I go live and no one is watching? I think then going live is already the win because you don't actually need people to watch your live for it to be a win. The win could be the fact that you're doing it, and the win could also be that you pop up on other people's social profile as you do it. So I have one client, Gretje, and she goes live every single Monday at 8 p.m. And every Monday when I'm on the couch or I'm on my treadmill, whatever, and I'm on Instagram, I'll get this notification, Gretje is live. And she talks about makeup tutorials, products that you can use. And what she's doing by going live is she's not selling to me because I'm not even watching the live. I don't have the patience for that, sadly, to look at tutorials. I don't think I've ever seen a single makeup tutorial in my entire life. I know, I am very weird. But she's telling me by going live, like, hey, Amy, if at any given point in time you have questions about makeup or about products, you can come and ask me. Because every week she's like, boom, I'm still here. Boom, I'm still here. Boom, I'm still here. And this is why I'm going live right now. I'm going live to let my audience know, boom, I'm still here. And this means you know what to reach me for. I'm talking about launching and selling today because people can see it in the title. This means, hey, I am a super dependable brand because even when I have a cold, I am still showing up because I told you I'd be recording and I am recording. And people see my profile photo and they see the sentence, so they get to know my brand languaging. Even when people aren't watching, they know I exist. And you know what? Maybe they're not interested in selling. Maybe they're like, I don't give a f about sales. But maybe their cousin is. And maybe tomorrow they're having lunch with their cousin who's saying, oh, I would love to start a little boutique, but you know what? I don't have the space for it, so I'm just going to start with a web shop. So that means I have to be selling online all the time, but I don't have a clue where I should get started. And then that person who saw me bling, pop up could say, hey, but I know this girl, woman, I don't know, I'm turning 30. My guess is people say woman by now. I still look at myself as not an adult, but that's just totally besides the point. I know this woman, she's a business coach, and she was just talking about, selling online through lives. I'll forward you her live. The replay is probably on her profile. Just the simple act of going online, even if we would say nothing, will already help us with the brand awareness and the interest people have in us. And if you are then going live and people are actually watching, well, then we can go over to the next couple of steps. So this is just why you should be doing it. If you feel like you're not selling enough right now, I once saw this post and it was brutal, but it said, if you feel like your launch flopped, but you didn't send out a minimum of 5 emails, created stories every day, and went live at least 3 times, did you even launch? And I was a little bit offended, but I was also like, oh, you are right. If you didn't go live, did you even launch? No. Stop being afraid. It's like if you would open your store and be like, oh, the store is open, but let me hide. You wouldn't do that. It's like you're supposed to show up and you're supposed to talk to people. And that's just what going live is. Stories and posts are a very one-sided way of communication. Sure, going live is a lot scarier, but you are here to get massive results. So I never said it wasn't going to be scary. I did say it was going to be effective, and going live is super effective. I like to also just put my lives on my podcast, by the way. It's easily repurposable, or I take stuff out of my live and then I take a little scene from it, a little bite-sized piece of content, then I could put that in my story. So going live once for 20 minutes can get me so much more in the long run. But the topic of this video was, why should you sell through lives and how to do it? I think I've just convinced you. You need to be going live. You just need to be showing up. Even if it's for people who will buy in 5 years or who will tell your cousin. I did a little market research 2 weeks ago in my coaching group and I was like, hey, how did you guys get to know me? And everyone was like, oh, through my cousin, through my sister, from a previous client. It's always just people telling people is still the best advertisement in the world. And it's the closest thing to real life selling. Before I continue and I tell you how you should sell through lives, is people want to trust you. That's paramount for people to be able to buy from you. And if they meet you in real life, they're going to be much more inclined to trust. Think of dating, for example. You could be chatting with someone, but meeting them in real life, you will be much more convinced they're not a serial killer, right? Although I heard some very disturbing stories about dating through Tinder. Please be careful and don't just go on Tinder dates with people you don't know. It's like big conversations from previous week. Totally besides the point. If you would be chatting with someone versus you meet them in real life. Although we could say that there's this thing where people are much more inclined to, pretend to be someone else or to open up in text, you do realize that meeting someone in real life will give you a lot more trust in that person because they're a real life human being. Same goes for sales. If you meet someone in real life, it's going to be much more fun, easy, trustworthy to buy from them. They're going to buy from you. Versus when we just see a static post on Instagram, for example. So the closest thing you can get to real life online is by video or by going live, which is even closer because it's in real time. Okay, I've made my point. You're now convinced that you need to go live. You're like, yes, when should I go live? The answer is today. It's never too early to go live. But it does help that people actually show up to your live. And this is something I keep forgetting. I keep forgetting to announce a live. And I've done lives for 200 people. I've done lives for 2 people. I've also gone live when there were 0 people. Don't feel bad when that happens. It's totally okay. But I'm going to give you a few tips as to how you can get people to actually attend your live and then what you should and shouldn't do during your live. So how can you get people to attend? Well, you need to kind of lure people in. Sometimes we get a little bit spoiled and we think, if I go live, people will come and watch. My question to you is, why the fuck would they? Like, they don't owe you anything. It's just like people don't owe you a sale. People don't owe you anything. So it's not because you decide to go live that anyone is actually interested in what you have to say, unless you give them a reason to be interested. And so I've done this in the past. I'm like, oh, I'll quickly go live, and 5 minutes before I'm going live, I'll put up this little announcement. No one cares, because no one cares about me. You know who people care about? Themselves. And that means that when we are doing a live, we need to make it about them and not about us. The best way to do this is by, for example, posting 48 hours beforehand. Could even be way longer before that, but for me it's already a challenge to tell people 48 hours beforehand that I'm going live. And what I'll do is I'll have a look at the title, and there needs to be something in it for them. So it could be like, how I'm doing or 3 ways to. And even when I'm in the final phase of a launch and I know it's just a Q&A about the course, I will still, sometimes I'll just do Q&A, for example, about the launch game book, my launch course. But I will try to prevent that from happening unless I know there are a lot of hot leads who just want to ask me questions. Then I'll organize a live call as like a type of group sales call, but I'll try to include a topic that's really interesting. So for example, in the past when I've launched my business coaching program, I'll be like how I've made 800,000 euros in a month and Q&A about the course, So I would be like 9 steps to 800,000 in a month plus Q&A. And then people show up because they want to get to know the 9 steps, and they'll stay for the Q&A because I will infuse my topic with what they need to know in order for them to give themselves permission to buy. So going live for me or talking to people is a way to help them give themselves permission to buy, which is why permit is the 4th phase of the Fast Forward launch blueprint. So what happens is, and this is something I've been doing wrong up until literally today, is I'm like, okay, this is a good topic. I'm gonna get people there. Very good communication. Here's a countdown timer. Put this in your calendar. Come and show up. I'm gonna give you the 9 ways to make $1 million, something like that. And I'll dive right into the solution. And that is actually a content mistake that I've made in the past, which it would be better to first dive deep into the pain or the problem or the feeling people have, because you really want to get people to the point that they're like, you are right. I am so sick of not being a millionaire. So I used to always go straight to the solutions, but after listening to a lot of people who are really great at content, podcasting, going live, is 80% of it is about the actual problem. So that by the time you get to the solutions, people are just eating it up and they're like, where can I pay for the product you're offering? And I had this recently. I was at a presentation where someone was talking about why phones are so bad for your mental health. And he just listed a bunch of things that, you start doing because you're so addicted to your phone, and how much time we spend on our phones and how bad it is for our brain. And after 95% of the time, just like in the last 5 minutes, he was like, oh, and by the way, this is my product. It's a box and you can put your phone in it. And that's great. And I was like, this was a great presentation. You just completely sold me on the topic of the fact that I need to get rid of my phone addiction, and I will buy whatever you throw at me. You want to do the same when you're hosting a live about selling. You want to dig into the problem and the pain really deeply. So it's the why you're doing this. It's the pain people experience. And then you're selling the concept. You're not selling the product. You are selling the concept. So when I did the pre-order for my launching course, for example, I was selling the concept of launching, not the launch course. And the pain was people don't make enough money because they're selling every day and it's very inefficient. The actual pain was people feel really bad because I have a lot of passion. They create new things and then no one buys it and they feel like a fucking failure. So I focus on the pain and the problem, just like I did right now with you. I told you a story and I was like, doesn't it just suck that you're not getting in enough sales? I'm like, going live is a solution. And then after that, we'll go to the next step. So what you would do in a live is first you would pinpoint the pain and the problem. Then you would go to your solutions or your story or your tips. And then at the end, you'd be like, and this is why I created my product, When people are already basically taking off their pants, ready to buy from you, they're almost orgasming from the story you told. This is how good it needs to be. No worries, by the way, I've gone live many, many times during a launch where I had zero preparation. I'm giving you next level tips, but even if you would do none of this, remember the pling, pling, pling. It's already good if you're just going live and you're just answering questions. Just giving you the pointers that will really help you get so many more sales in. So you're selling the concept, not the product. The product is just like an effect of what you're saying, and you want to engage people as much as possible. So I'm going to give you a few tips as to what you can do during a live. First and foremost, make sure you have a piece of paper where you have your outline with you. I prefer to usually always keep a laptop or an iPad with me here with the sales page, because then I can plop that up in the video and be like, hey, and you can have a look at the sales page, and people are like, ooh, that looks really interesting. I will go and have a scroll. And your mood will determine a lot. Because again, if we put the social in social media and we pretend like we are in a store, would we look angrily at the people walking in? No. We're like, hello, welcome. Let me know if I can help you. So you wouldn't just like do a stare down or be in the dark, like the lights would be on in your store. You would be on and you would be smiling. And the same goes for you in a live. You should be smiling. Your mood should be enthusiastic, because if you're not enthusiastic about what you're selling, why would anyone else be? Right? If you don't love your product, why would anyone else be? So tip 1, your mood determines a lot. Tip 2, keep an iPad or computer ready with you so you can either like show the product, the sales page, whatever you have. If people have questions, like, oh, and this is the login, or this is where you can purchase it, or this is where you can see the sizes of the shoes. If you're selling physical products, obviously, let's assume I'm selling mugs, have the mugs in the picture, because again, it's the closest thing to real life that you're getting to. Ask people to comment. That's tip number 3. Ask people to comment if they're watching. What I do is I make it as easy as possible, but because people are like, I don't want you to know I'm watching, I'm just lurking. So then I make it so easy for them, being like, comment a little coffee cup emoji or something like that, which is what I already said previously. I will say hi to replayers. I literally went live before I started this recording. I'm like, hey, welcome. And also, hi if you're watching the replay, so that someone who is watching the replay also feels engaged enough to continue watching. Because you're not just going live to go live, you're going live so that you can reuse that content later on. I will say names. So if someone comments a question or says coffee cup hello, I'll be like, oh, hello, Megan. So nice to have you here today. Pointing out that name is something that also works in real life conversations. Again, it increases trust and it also increases the adherence that people will actually stay in your life. I already said I will show as much tangible material as possible, so the laptop or the iPad, and I will infuse everything I'm saying with frequently asked questions and objections. So I won't even wait until someone says something like, what if I don't have enough time to follow your course? I will literally just say it myself, be like, I can hear you wondering, what if you don't have enough time to follow this? You know what? You already don't have a lot of time. So we have maximized this so that blah, 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 blah. I will just pick up objections myself, try to infuse as much of my content with it. And I will also prevent objections. So I will already say, for example, launching. So when people say, I don't have time to follow your launching course, could be an objection that is going to come up in the future. So in my explanation of 3 ways that you can launch more, maybe in the introduction, I can already say, you probably are someone just like me who doesn't have a lot of time, so you would probably love it if you don't have to be worried about selling every month or every day, but only 1 month out of 3 months, and there you can launch. This is going to save you 2/3 of your time, and the course isn't going to even be that much time. Something like that. I can always infuse my content with frequently asked questions and objections. And I already said it, but what I do when someone will comment, usually I will ask someone from my team to watch the live and to comment the link. Sometimes my team isn't there because I just go live at random ass times and I forgot to tell anyone. And then I will just ask someone from my audience like, hey, do you want to be my moderator? For me, those are usually my clients, my customers. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm watching. And then I just ask the audience, could you help me comment the link to my page? And then they'll do that. And normally my team will do that. They will log in from an official account. And what we will also do is when people do have sales questions, frequently asked questions, sales questions, whatever, we will write down their names so that later we can contact them. So those are a bunch of tips. And what I like to do is 80% of the time I'm focusing on the pain, on the why, on the value, all of it. And only 20% of it is about the actual product. So 80% is about the big piece of content where why people are there. And then a small part, I'll focus on the product. I will not read out loud the entire sales page. I'll just make it so that people really feel like I should really go and check out that sales page. And in that last 20% of the live call, I will talk about what is it, when is it, where is it, the how is it, other questions that pop up. So I'll probably prep a list of potential objections, potentially frequently asked questions, and then just some facts that you need to know, like, hey, it's in Dutch or in English, it starts at that time, this is the payment plan, so that you just know all of that information. But the really big part of a life, if you do it correctly, is about what you are bringing to people instead of what you want from them. So selling is an act of service, and this is how you should approach the life. So remember here, main part of your life should be useful, so useful and so emotional that by the end of the life, people are like, what is the product? I can't wait to hear it. Remember, think of the guy with the box with the phones. And they're not going to buy during the live because they are in the live and you can only do one thing on your phone at that moment. You want them to go there afterwards. So write down the names and the magic is in the follow-up. any type of sales, following up with people who had questions, writing down their names, tracking them. Did they buy? Did they not buy? Which questions are coming up a lot? After the live, you can post about, hey, I got these 3 questions, and maybe you have the same ones. I'll post them here with the answers. The questions and the engagement are the goal of your life. The next step is to actually get them to sell. So look at the live as having the goal of engaging people. And when you are engaging with people, the next step can be to actually get them to buy from you. I hope you enjoyed this little sneak peek of my newest course. I know I had a lot of fun recording the course. It was also very difficult because, I've been launching for over 3 years, almost nonstop, and I've learned so much that I wildly underestimated what it would be like to create this course. Because turns out I don't just have a few hours of content about launching, I have many, many hours of content about launching. So I created videos about how to set your targets, not just sales targets, but also how to know how many people do you need on your email list, your wait list, calculating your data, what to post, how to prove to people that you're trustworthy. All of that and so much more is what you can find in the Launch Gamebook. And of course, I could go on and on about everything that you'll find in there, but I think what is so important is to ask you, as a listener, what do you want to achieve right now? What are your hopes and dreams for this upcoming year? And if some of those hopes and dreams concern, attracting new customers, getting your products out into the world, then the Launch Gamebook might be exactly what you need. So don't hesitate to go and check it out through fastforwardamy.com/the Launch Gamebook, or just click the link in the description. Because we're still mid-launch, we will soon stop launching, and that means that there are a few bonuses and price thingies that are going to change, and you will not want to have missed out. So go and check it out, fastforwardamy.com/the Launch Gamebook. And if you have any questions about launching or about this topic, feel free to just shoot me a DM on Instagram. You can find me as FastForwardAmy, and I hope you have a happy day. See you next week.